Oh my god. 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 Wow. Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy shit! Okay, so we're living in a post-Switch 2 world, a post-Switch 2 Direct world. People are starting to go hands-on with it. Everyone is upset about the prices. The games look fantastic. The console, to me, looks fantastic. And now the pre-order situation's crazy. It's nuts. We're in a totally different world than we were just a week ago, as we all know. But this Metroid Prime 4 footage from the Treehouse, this is everything to me. And so, obviously, as soon as I saw it, I knew I needed to do a deep dive and really dig in to this incredible footage. Day one of the Treehouse has concluded, and we saw a lot of great footage from a lot of the games that they showed. Mario Kart looks fantastic, Donkey Kong looks fantastic, and of course, seeing the Switch 2 edition of Metroid Prime 4 being played and demonstrated, and mouse controls and 4K resolution, and holy freaking crap, it's even better than I think we all expected. And I expected it to be great before we saw it last year in June on the Switch 1. I expected it to be great after the Nintendo Direct footage we got last week, and I expected it to be great at the Treehouse, but it seriously exceeded all of my very, very, very high expectations. So, before I start diving into this, I want to let you know that I am going to approach this differently than I normally do. If you guys have seen a lot of my footage breakdowns and Metroid Prime breakdowns and whatnot in the past, you know that I normally like to package it kind of like a regular video, where it's presented in a very different way than just going through the footage and pausing and rewinding and doing all that kind of stuff. But this footage, this clip is so long, this Treehouse gameplay, and there's so much to look into, I figured that I'm just going to do it, I guess what I would call the easier way, where we are just going to watch the footage and I'm going to be pausing and explaining and theorizing and just kind of looking at it from more of that perspective. Again, different than I normally do, but for this footage, I just feel like it's what makes the most sense. Also, it has to be stated that the actual footage that you can find on Nintendo's channel is running in 4K, 60 frames per second. That is not what I'm able to capture and render, so you're going to be looking at like my 1080 footage as OBS is capturing the footage. So clearly the quality isn't going to come across the same in my video here as I pause and I break this down. But I'm sure you guys have seen the actual footage. If you haven't, you should definitely watch Nintendo's official footage at 4K because it is mind-blowing and it's going to look even better than what I'm able to show here. So with all that out of the way, let's look at this Treehouse footage. Let's break it down. Let's speculate. This is crazy. Okay, here we are watching this Treehouse footage. Of course, we get the introduction to all the folks. We're going to skip ahead a little bit to actually get into the good stuff because this is what we're looking for. We get set up with some story context. We basically know, and they basically tell us, that we are looking at the opening section to the game. This matches the theories and speculations from the first trailer last year, where Samus runs into Sylux at the end, that maybe this was the opening section. I feel like this was more confirmed after the direct footage that we got last week, and now we know it more than ever. So this opening 3 sections of context is huge. So we start with, it is Cosmic Year 20X9. Determined to defeat Samus and the Galactic Federation, Sylux and his army of space pirates launched a series of attacks on Federation research facilities. So this is huge because it's setting up Samus and Sylux already at the very, very beginning of the game. And the fact that Sylux and his army of space pirates, so as I had already been theorizing, it seemed like Sylux had teamed up with the space pirates, obviously having to do with trying to clone or recreate Metroids. And we get a better glimpse into this with some of this other footage that we're going to see, or this other story context right here. This is huge. It is believed the space pirates are being controlled by Metroids that have the ability to fuse with other life forms and control their minds. So we're looking at... This is telling us Metroids and not Mocktroids, But if we were to go on this and take the Metroids element at face value, it does seem to imply a little bit of a timeline of this opening section to the game. And that timeline being that it is very likely before Super Metroid, where all of the Metroids are basically destroyed by the end of that game. So if we're looking at actual Metroids and not Mocktroids, we could be looking at any time between Metroid Prime 3 and Super Metroid. Just a guess. Things could change. Nintendo and Retro can do anything they want, but I have to wonder about that. Now, it also mentions that these are Metroids that have the ability to fuse with other life forms and control their minds, hinting at this prior section where it mentions... I guess it's not at this part. Maybe it's at the next story part, because it mentions space pirates being controlled by Metroids. Sorry, it is actually in the same one right here. Space pirates being controlled by Metroids that have the ability to fuse, and we see that with the boss at the very end of this section here. This is potentially very cool. We're looking at Metroids kind of being able to do maybe the same thing that the X-Parasite could do. And so maybe that even gives us a different hint into the timeline where it actually could be later after the introduction of the X-Parasite. And it's like a Metroid X hybrid, even though Metroids are like the kind of natural predators to the X. Maybe something changes. Like, I mean, you could argue that after the events of Metroid Dread, that changes. But again, I've kind of moved away from believing that this takes place after Metroid Dread. So anyway, we'll move on to the next section here. Let's see here. Okay, more great information here. Now on planet Tanimar in the Desolan system, these are new as well, okay? Tanimar and the Desolan system, so we've got, that's what this first planet is, this planet Tanimar. I believe this is new. Maybe in some of the planets you scan in Metroid Prime 1, this planet was included. I'd have to double check, but I believe this is a new planet as far as my understanding of the lore. And the Desolan system, that's new. Another Federation research facility is being attacked. Okay, this is all echoing kind of like the Planet Norian battle from Metroid Prime 3 that I've discussed in the past. Galactic Federation HQ received their distress call and dispatched Samus, who was on a reconnaissance mission nearby. Now, this has me wondering if this could be tying in to some other events. Like, if she's on the Federation ship in Metroid Fusion, would they call that a reconnaissance mission? Would they call Metroid Dread, what she's doing on planet ZDR, a reconnaissance mission? Does this mean anything? She was already on a reconnaissance mission at the time that she's called to planet Tanimar in the beginning of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Maybe this means something. Maybe this is just random and we're not supposed to look into it. The reconnaissance mission could mean anything. So it could mean just it's a random thing she was doing and we're not meant to know. Maybe it's a way to tie into some other games. I'm just putting it out there. We'll wait to learn more as this goes. Now, here's where we get at the opening cutscene. I was initially worried about watching this because it's like, do I really want to see the opening cutscene before I play the game? But I can't not watch this footage. So we do watch this. And I love that we're seeing almost like the beginning of Metroid Prime 2, where she's landing on planet Aether. She's coming out of the clouds in the atmosphere in her gunship to land on this planet. Now, the immediate thing I thought looking at all this is, A, this is gorgeous. This is the work that Nintendo and Retro have been putting into this game for years behind the scenes. And also, it looks just like Revenge of the Sith, okay? The third best Star Wars movie ever made, in my opinion. One of my favorite films of all time. A masterpiece. And this, like, it just opens like the beginning space battle above Coruscant in Revenge of the Sith. So, that's amazing. We're seeing Galactic Federation troopers look better than ever. We're seeing this mech. Now, we're going to be coming back to this homeboy. There's another great shot when Samus comes in and basically just, or actually that wasn't Samus, but another ship, space pirate ship is blasting this thing. Now we're going to come back to this because if you watched my breakdown of the footage from the Direct last week, I theorized about a mech. And I was like, but I don't think it's a mech, it's probably a ship. And then we see these guys. So yeah, we're going to come back to that later in this footage. So this is going on. Samus is flying through. She's ready to land and kick some ass. Now, here we can see, I pointed this out in the footage from last year as well, in the June Direct last year. These space pirate ships, I love seeing these because these we've seen these before, basically. On Planet Brio in Metroid Prime 3, before Samus fights Rundus, the corrupted form of Rundus, a bunch of space pirates are seen above the planet, and they send some space pirates down in the dropships, and Samus fights them before she has to fight Rundus. And so it's just really cool to see these, looking newer and better in this footage here. Okay, more footage of her landing. And so we get the recreation of the original footage that we saw from the trailer last year, just looking fantastic. I did notice, by the way, I'll keep this playing, it's raining. Now, I don't know if God, she looks, can we talk about it? Lord almighty, just wowzer. But I don't know if the rain is added since the trailer from last year, or if maybe the rain is only on the Switch 2 edition because it's more impressive. So anyway, here we go. This is where the gameplay starts and the battling starts. This is an extended, uninterrupted recreation of the footage again we saw last year. We see, I don't know what this is. Could this be Phazon? Maybe my color blindness is getting in the way. Those of you who can see color would probably be able to look at this, and if you're familiar with Phazon, and say, yes, this is Phazon, or this is not Phazon. But I don't know. I'm colorblind. I don't even know. It all looks blue to me. Maybe it's purple. Maybe it's pink. But it's just, I don't know. It's interesting that this is here. We'll see what that means. And we'll let this go more. We got this amazing space, look at all these space pirate ships, man. It's fantastic. This is so fantastic. And I will never shut up about how much this reminds me of the opening Norian battle in Metroid Prime 3. I actually feel like this whole section, this beginning section on planet, is it Tanamir here? Leading up to the boss fight, leading up to meeting Psylux and everything that happens at the end. This opening section to me is almost going to feel, tonally, like a bit of a bridge between Metroid Prime 3 and Metroid Prime 4, because it feels so Metroid Prime 3 coded in so many ways. Okay, here we go. Now we see Samus coming in face-to-face with the Galactic Federation trooper. I'll pause it here. They look fantastic, and actually I really like, also, again, oh, my girl, she has never looked this good. I am freaking out, you guys, at how just amazing she looks, and the graphics and the performance. Again, I know you're not watching the 4K footage here in my video, but if you watch it in 4K, you can just tell how incredible everything looks, how smooth it is at 60 frames per second, and just, Samus looks so fantastic. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so this Galactic Federation, I really love, just these small effects. We see it in a lot of other games too, but the way his visor kind of lights up as he basically pulls up the map of the section we're in. Now, okay guys, we're going to be talking about the scanning. We're going to be talking about my psychic scanning theory, and also Samus using her, fingers here to kind of push the button that we've seen in cutscenes in prior games as well. But it's different than the scanning we see her do on Planet Vueros, and people keep pushing back on my theory, but I'm telling you guys my theory is correct. Either way, here, she is pressing a button on her visor to scan the map that Homeboy is giving her. And so we're going to see, and he's like, all right, when you're ready, scan the door and get through. So we're seeing what it looks like when she acquires a new item, just the general, what the kind of the font and everything looks like, the UI, the HUD looks like here. And we're seeing what the map looks like, just a better looking version of what we've seen before. Now we can see up here, we've got a little settings icon, but we've got some other locked options here. So this, I'm assuming once you get to Vueros and you can actually start finding new upgrades, your psychic powers maybe will be included here. Your new upgrades and weapons, an overview of Samus, any lore entry, logbook lore entry, that's probably all going to be kept here. So just wanted to point that out. Other than that, it just looks like, we've seen these before. It's giving us a waypoint. I hope that Metroid Prime 4 is significantly better with waypoints than the first 3 games. Because if there's one complaint I can give about the first 3 games, even though they're all perfect to me, is that the where to go next can get a little bit confusing, which is part of the getting lost and backtracking element of Metroid, and so I do want them to keep that in this game, but also sometimes you can get too lost. I would say Metroid Prime 2 is the worst offender of that. So, all right, let's talk about this scanning, you guys. We're seeing scanning again. So, she scanned, right? She scanned. She did not pull up her hand to either press the button we just saw her press when Homeboy gave her the map, or to press the button like we've seen in Metroid Primes 1, 2, and 3 in some of the cutscenes. Like at the end of Metroid Prime 2, when she's escaping Planet Aether, she's running to the gate between the light and dark Aether, and yeah, she presses the button on the side of her helmet in a cutscene to scan something. And people have used those cutscenes to say that in this game, they just decided to animate her scanning with her hand by pressing the button, like we saw in the trailer footage from the Direct last week, and that's not true. My psychic scanning theory isn't true. But I'm telling you guys, look, that trailer was last week. Now we have this trailer this week. We've seen it on Switch 1 and Switch 2. And everything we're seeing on this opening planet Tanimar, before she has the psychic eye helmet that we see her using on Vuros in the other trailer, everything here, she is not pulling up her hand. Look, there is no hand here, but she's scanning. Everything on planet Vuros, after she has the psychic eye helmet, we see her pulling up her hand to activate her scanning. There is no doubt in my mind that that's what's happening. So anyway, maybe I talk about that later in another video. But she does scan. She didn't use her hand. Now we're opening some doors. We're doing some more scanning. No hand required here without the psychic helmet. She's got her regular helmet. She's just scanning like normal with the visor. Now we come into some fantastic space pirate footage. Again, this is more uninterrupted gameplay that matches the reveal trailer from last year, running on the Switch 1 as opposed to the Switch 2 footage. And it looks like, you know, it's like the same kind of gameplay that we've seen from Metroid Prime in the past. But I will say, between this section and some of the other combat sections coming up, this looks to me like it plays and feels much faster than in the first 3 games on the GameCube and the Wii. You know, I can't say until I really get my hands on it for sure. But overall, I'm seeing evidence that this is just going to feel a lot more action heavy when you're playing the action segments. Now, I bring that up. I'll pause here. I bring that up because some of the criticisms people have lobbied against the footage from the Direct last week, the Switch 1 footage, is that it's the same, it's boring, it's not, you know, it just looks like really uninteresting, and why didn't they do more? Why didn't they change it up? And yada, yada, yada. And while there's an element to that I understand, being that we had to wait so many years between Metroid Prime 3 and Metroid Prime 4, it's frustrated me because I feel like people have completely just been ignoring the fact that this isn't, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is not a reinvention of Metroid. It is not a reboot. It is not meant to be a fresh take on Metroid or Metroid Prime. It is a flipping sequel, okay? So if you've played Metroid Primes 1, 2, and 3, then there's already an established formula and a rhythm to the fighting and the shooting and the action and the scanning and the combat and the morph balling. There's a pre-established formula and gameplay type and rhythm that already exists. So to ask Metroid Prime 4 to act as the Breath of the Wild to the Metroid franchise is just completely off base, and it is ignoring some obvious truths. Okay, the next time they make a Metroid game that is like Metroid Revengeance, Metroid Annihilation, Metroid anything, Metroid X, something that is actually a fresh take, the way Metroid Other M was a fresh take. Love it or hate it, that's not the point. It was a fresh take, and that was allowed to do and try and play differently. That's not what Metroid Prime 4 is. There's a number 4 for a reason. It is a sequel. All it has to do is look and play better, which it clearly does, and add some nuances and some evolutions to an otherwise established formula. To me, that is like the mouse controls, that is going to be the story, okay, and it's going to be the psychic abilities. Those are the ways you improve on and evolve a sequel to an established formula. Halo 4 and Uncharted 4 are not games that completely upended everything about Halo or Uncharted. They were just sequels on newer, better hardware with better graphics and slight tweaks. That's what Metroid Prime 4 is. Okay, I'm going to step off my soapbox. Thank you for listening to me. That's my TED Talk. And let's get back to the goods here. So we're going to see her use her Morph Ball. We saw this in the Switch 2 Direct as well as here. The way she pops out, the animation back into her first-person view is really cool in this. All right. Here we get a Space Pirate dropship, dropping some Space Pirates. Here we got some Federation troopers. And oh, look. It is the big mech. One of the big mechs. Now, I mentioned this earlier. When I did my breakdown of the Switch 1 footage from the Direct last week, I had mentioned that there's all this, like, what looks like Galactic Federation or human-created wreckage. It's just stuck on planet Vuros. A lot of it wrapped up in vines. And there was a shot of something hanging from vines. And I discussed it. I was like, I thought that this looked like a mech. It looked like a mech to me, but I was like, there are no mechs in Metroid that we've ever seen before, really. So it's probably not. And when I looked at it more in like a freeze frame, I just thought it was maybe a ship that had broken in such a way that it looked like a mech. But nope. That is absolutely a mech, because we're seeing these mechs here, and the design on, like, if I can find the design on the like their legs, you can see this leg and this like knee cap, this knee joint hanging from those vines in the other trailer. So I think that confirms my random thought that I second guessed myself on, that that's a mech stuck on planet Vuros. All right, so here we get into another battle, and we're going to see the mouse controls. Now, he's using the mouse controls now. You can tell by the way it's whipping around, and they're going to show up here now. We can see how it's working. This is very important to pay attention to. It looks great, like the accuracy, the speed at which the cursor and the game is moving is fantastic based on the mouse controls here. He's using what looks like it's the R2 button. So not the R1, he's using the R2, and it looks like R1 is probably firing this missile here. So, looks satisfying. And we're going to get to a really important thing here that he shows us. How do you go from regular controls to mouse controls, right? Just like he just did. He just picked his hand up, man. All you have to do is you can be playing in split Joy-Con mode like it's normal. You want to go to mouse controls, you just plop that sucker down on a surface and it automatically just becomes, in real time, mouse controls. And as soon as you want to stop doing it, watching up here, he just lifts it and now suddenly you're in analog mode, no longer mouse controls. So you can go in and out of mouse controls as you want on the fly like he just did again here. Absolutely amazing. Now, watching this footage here, you know, a lot of people have kind of talked. The guy doesn't seem very accurate. He's definitely struggling to hit a lot of enemies. Now, this makes me think either A, he might just not be that great at it, which is fine. I do not care. That stuff does not bother me. I'm not here to make fun of someone. But I more question and wonder if you can lock on to enemies while using the mouse. I feel like you must be able to both lock on and use the mouse. Just like in Metroid Prime 3, when you're using the Wii Remote pointer controls, you can lock on but then still have the free aim with the Wii Remote, and it's the perfect balance of being locked on while having free aim. I don't think we see him lock on once when he's using the mouse controls here. So I don't know if that's his choice or if for some reason you can't lock on, but I don't believe that. I'm theorizing you can lock on, and for whatever reason he just didn't. So let's not overanalyze either his bad play or the fact that maybe you can or can't log on. I think that you can lock on while you're using the mouse controls. So anyway, more scanning. We saw this guy in the footage from last year, the initial reveal trailer. And he does the same scan as we saw before. He's going to blast him away with a missile here. Very cool. We've seen this before as well. It is very fun, I think, to watch the footage we saw from the reveal trailer, but uninterrupted as live gameplay. It really puts in perspective how accurate that was. But again, we're also watching the 4K Switch 2 edition version, which just looks and plays so much better than what we saw last year. It's incredibly exciting. Okay, we're popping in to the scene where as we know, they're kind of already gone here. These guys have the artifact. They're referring to it as the artifact, right? We know that that's what Silex and the Space Pirates are here for. The Federation is trying to protect it, and we can see it being hauled away, like we did last year, by some Federation troopers. While this battle ensues below, blow this up. Our first energy tank, so I guess we know where the first energy tank is going to be, and it's going to be something you can't miss. Blowing things up, making a new path. Now we know we enter this room by just popping out here. Now this is another great section of gameplay. He's clearly using the mouse here. And see, that's where I think he is locking on and using the mouse. So maybe that is what's happening here. And I love that. This action looks and feels great. It just looks fantastic, man. It's so much faster than the prior games. All right, now this is huge. We can see we've got some holograms here of a couple. This looks like planets probably. This thing, I don't know what it is, but he does go and scan it. This is clearly the artifact. The thing that the Federation is trying to hide from Silex and the Space Pirates, and as has been discussed, if I can get a good shot, I mean, it doesn't really show up well when I freeze frame it, but this absolutely is the same thing behind the logo for Metroid Prime 4, which we've all kind of been theorizing. It's not new information, but it does seem to confirm it. Now, he scans this. Now, I think that they got confused in their commentary. And it's a little frustrating because I do want to know what this says, but maybe it's better to discover as we actually play. I think he scanned the console, not the hologram itself. Universal Object Analyzer identifies and classifies unknown materials, uses both radiation measurements and microfocus X-ray scans. I don't think that that's the description of the artifact. And the commentary from the Treehouse crew makes it sound like it is. So maybe I'm misreading that. We'll see. Because the artifact clearly does something else. I think that this console is an analyzer of artifacts, is kind of how I'm taking it. So he goes here. He goes over and scans this thing. I don't really know what this is supposed to be. I don't know if it's another artifact or if it's a map or if it's another solar system. But let's see. He scans it. Let me remind myself what it says here. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's a solar system. This is the Desolan system, the Desolan system. That planet Tanimar here is actually on, where Samus is in the beginning of the game. Artifact detection location marked. So it's showing you where the artifact is. And you can even see the artifact here on the side scans here. This is the key. He does more scanning. I can't help but notice all of the scanning does not have Samus's hand on the left side. I mean, I'm just going to say, you know. Look at no hand scanning. I wonder why. Here on planet Tanimar without the psychic helmet, why isn't she using her hand to scan? All right, so I think he does another scan of the door. He's got his hands up here. Scanning. Lock on gate. So this is just going to show off more of how you can lock onto things. You know, Metroid Prime 1 did this in the very beginning on the derelict spaceship as well. But here he's using motion. So, all the control schemes, this game's going to be amazing. I love all these different options. Now he's going back to mouse. You can see now he's, you know, it's just nice to be able to see his hands up here as he does this. And she's mentioning that this is a 4K stream. Now we're gonna get to this boss fight. I won't sit here and watch the entire boss fight because it takes a while. Okay, so here we go. This is the artifact. This is the Metroid Prime 4 logo. I didn't bring this up yet. The direct trailer last week, the narrator, I didn't even bring this up in my second video. He mentions that, I don't remember how he phrases it, this journey will take Samus through space and time. So like, time travel probably confirmed through that alone, let alone what we see happen with this artifact here. And this again goes back to theories many people had last year after the first trailer. So this is an exciting cutscene because it's a little action moment. Samus comes in. Hi, I'm the resident badass here to make everything amazing. Now, I do want to mention, I brought this up last year, but I just want to say it again while we're looking at this. These drop pods here, I brought it up before. Metroid Prime 3 also introduced the idea of these drop pods in the very opening section when Samus is on the ship, the Galactic Federation ship, and they kind of come through the walls, and they pierce the outside of the ship, and they open up, and space pirates pour out. So it's pretty cool to kind of see them evolved as like drop pods in Metroid Prime 4. All right, here's a boss. More fighting over the artifact. And here's our Metroid, what appears to be a Metroid. And this is confirming the opening story dialogue, the text, that mentions Sylux and the Space Pirates are using, I think they said, a new form of Metroid that can fuse with people? Or fuse with enemies and basically mind control them. So we've got mind-controlling Metroids / Metroids taking over this guy, which is weird because he was clearly already a bad guy, you know? But now he's, I guess, more bad, and it might be making him stronger, which it seems to be. God, these cutscenes are amazing. Samus is amazing. Now we have a boss fight. So, like I said, we're not going to sit here and watch this whole thing. I'll skip ahead a little bit, but it's a fun boss fight to watch. Reminds me of plenty of other bosses we've seen in Metroid games, like Moganar, for example, and he's going to have his like weak points that open up here and there, and the idea is you're using the motion controls, the mouse controls, the lock-on controls to hit these spots as you have access to them and to destroy him. His name is Abarax, okay? So the guy playing didn't scan Abarax, and so that's fine. It leaves something for us to read and scan when we actually play the game ourselves. But let's skip ahead. So this fight ensues. It's really awesome. It takes a while, but it's great. Let me go back here to when she actually defeats him. It's going to be the end here. His life is just about done avoiding these energy pulse things. And there we go. Abarax defeated. Get the hell out of Dodge, man. Nobody likes you anyway. Samus is victorious because that's what Samus does. She looks amazing. There's the artifact. And to no one's surprise, again, we could all piece this together last year. This is where Sylux pops in, looking amazing. Oh my lord, I love you, man. I'm so glad you're back in this game, but also I want to defeat you. All right, we get some more action. Oh my god, I love that shot. It just gives me goosebumps. Look at this, is just a stare down. The action's happening around us, but Samus and Sylux, oh man, here we go. So, this is huge. Oh, Samus taken down. Get the hell out of here, bro. Now, this is where we can theorize more. This activates the artifact. And this huge energy pulse goes... It basically looks like it takes over maybe the entire planet. Look at the size of that. It's crazy. So, my thinking here, if we look at this again... Now, there's a theory I have, and someone even commented it on one of my videos as well, and I am now believing this almost entirely. This moment here, well, visually, by the way, this just reminds us of the Phazon explosion from Dark Samus in the beginning of Metroid Prime 3. So again, this whole scene is like, it's like game symmetry. This whole opening section on Planet Tanimar, to me, is a bridge between Prime 3 and Prime 4, gameplay-wise, tonal-wise, story-wise, with the Space Pirates and the Norian battle and all that stuff. But this continues to mirror what happens at the end of that opening section, where Samus and the other hunters get overwhelmed with Phazon, and their corruption begins, which becomes the main hook and story plot point of that game, of Metroid Prime 3. And that's not what this is, but it just looks kind of similar to that moment. So what I think is happening here is, narrator mentions space and time. Does Beyond insinuate something to do with time travel? So I think that on this planet, well, you know what? I'm changing my mind here. Because I was going to say that maybe on this planet, as this thing explodes, the artifact, that Planet Tanimar... Basically, Samus gets sent into the future on Planet Tanimar, and everything we've seen on Planet Vuros, which is what makes me think this might not work exactly, on planet Vueros, you're actually just on planet Tanimar, like maybe hundreds or thousands of years in the future, and some of that wreckage that we see, that Federation wreckage, the mech that's caught in the vines, maybe that's all left over from what's happening to the planet here, you know? And so that this transporting that happens from by Samus to planet Vueros is actually just this same planet, only way in the future. And she has to find a way back to the present. So that's a theory that I have. But again, why would it be called planet Vueros and not planet Tanimar? You know, that part is a little bit confusing to me. So either that's not what happens and she gets sent, this explosion of the artifact sends her to planet Vueros away from planet Tanimar, or maybe, I guess what could be true is if this thing sends her way into the future or the past, a different point in time, that maybe the name of the planet was different. Maybe the name of the planet was different thousands of years in the past or thousands of years in the future. And planet Tanimar and planet Vueros might actually be the same planet. And this artifact exploding here is what sends Samus to a different point in time. The planet is now called planet Vueros, and she has to solve that issue and get herself back home. Okay, so wow. So much to go over. So beautiful, this footage. So incredible and impressive this gameplay is. A lot to take away story-wise, gameplay-wise. Psylocke, the artifact, the time travel. I mean, I know it was a lot of information, and it was a lot of me just going really deep and just going ham on this footage. But it's amazing, you guys. This is the best look at the game yet. And I know a lot of people have been asking for a more cinematic trailer and something that gets non-Metroid fans or non-Metroid Prime fans and players more excited about the game than the first two trailers we got. And I haven't had that same opinion. I understood where it's come from, and maybe I'll make another video in the future talking about this. I don't really know that that's been as needed as some people have asked for, but let's be real. If you didn't like those first two trailers, this Treehouse footage almost for sure got you excited. I mean, I've long said that I don't know if any game, even Metroid Prime 4, could surpass the original Metroid Prime as my favorite game of all time. You know, Metroid Dread, I was like, is this going to be my new favorite game? I mean, Metroid Dread almost could have, and that game is amazing. It's probably my third favorite Metroid game ever made. But it didn't. Even Metroid Dread did not surpass it. But Metroid Prime 4, maybe because I'm such a sucker for the Prime saga and that story and that version of Samus. Very interesting. So, to recap a couple of things. What's happening with Psylocke and the Metroids and the Machtroids and, you know, how this influences the timeline. Again, maybe they're doing something weird where these are like post-Metroid Dread Metroids having to do with, even though, but they've been destroyed. Samus is the last Metroid, right? That's the whole point of that game. So, I mean, the writers can do anything they want to if they decide it, but I just don't feel like they would retroactively change what that meant. So my timeline prediction is somewhere between prior to Metroid 2 and prior to Super Metroid, right? So I feel like they could make it after Metroid 2 and Samus, could bonds with the baby after defeating the Metroid Queen. I mean, they could play with this timeline, right? The planet Tanimar battle at the beginning of this game could be it could be any time after Metroid Prime 3, which means before Metroid 2 or after Metroid 2, meaning before Super Metroid. So there's a lot of options on the table. I mean, I feel if I was to really guess, I think I'm just going to say this. If I was to really guess, I think that this is between Metroid 2 and Super Metroid, which would be a bit of a time jump coming off of Metroid Prime 3. And Samus is on a reconnaissance mission. Is that going to be linked to another Metroid game we've played, or is it just a random mission that we're not supposed to think about or know anything more about? I don't know. I feel like the artifact is going to send Samus into a different point in time. It's going to send her to planet Vueros. The question is planet Tanimar the same as planet Vueros, or are they totally different? And why does she get sent there? You know, that's part of what we have to learn. Gameplay looks great. The mouse controls, you're just playing this way. You want mouse controls? Just plop it on a surface and you're going. You want to stop mouse controls? Just pick it up and you're playing like normal. You can do motion controls. You can do dual analog. They are giving us every option we could possibly imagine so exciting. And the connections to Metroid Prime 3 here are very strong. Just like I think the connections to Metroid Prime 2 on all of the Planet Vuro stuff is also very strong. So this game is just doing everything we could have wanted. That opening cutscene, incredible. Just amazing. So Revenge of the Sith-like I said. So I think that's all for now. This is a very long video and a very long breakdown, and I knew it would be. So, yeah, share your thoughts below on the footage. Share your thoughts below on my breakdown, some of the theories and the things that I pointed out. I want to know what you guys think. It's such an exciting time for Metroid. Now we just have to wait for the date. I have plenty more Metroid videos to come. Do not worry. I have a lot more to talk about when it comes to this game. But we got to wait for that date. And if I'm being honest, I guess we have to wait for the price, too. Is this going to be a $70 game? Or is this going to be an $80 game? Maybe the Switch 1 version will be $60 or $70. The Switch 2 version could be $70 or $80. Or maybe they just make it one unified price across the board. We'll have to wait and see. It's probably going to be $10 more because the Switch 2 edition is inherently using that upgrade patch you would buy from the Switch 1 version, right? So it's I'm going to guess $60 for Switch 1 and $70 for Switch 2. If they're smart, that's how they price this thing. I think this might be the big holiday title. We'll get Mario Kart at launch. We'll get Donkey Kong a month later. And then sometime between August and October, we'll probably see Metroid Prime 4. That's going to be my guess. So thank you for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Share your thoughts and theories below. And I will see you next time.